We're going to call this session the Boardroom revision to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. With me is Laurie Davidson farthest to my left, Gisela Ripple is right to my left, and my name is Harvey Diamond. Our assessor today is Candace Wright, and our secretary is Kelsey Harrison. We'll be hearing application for revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision have been requested have been described in each application. Will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make after this hearing must be sworn testimony, and anybody speaking must be sworn in. Be advised that comparative assessments are not considered as evidence by our board and will not accept them as evidence. Our board is appointed annually by council as independent of it and the city administration. We make our decisions on the basis of the evidence that we hear, and we provide written orders that we mail to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that our decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation, and should a party wish to appeal, the matter and how to do so will be included with our order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We'll have the assessor's testimony followed by any questions the applicant may have. Then the applicant may provide their evidence followed by questioning, and each party will be given an opportunity to summarize if they wish to do so. Once all the evidence upon an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The person will repeat for every matter on the docket today, and after all the matters are heard, we will close our hearing, we'll deliberate in private, and we'll render our decisions, which will be which will be received by you by registered mail as soon as possible. The information today is being recorded, it's live streamed, and it's going to form part of a public record. Thank you. We can swear in the first party, which should be item number 3, which is file number 19350. And we don't have an address, so I can only give you a roll number, RA 0306490700. That party can come forward.
Do you swear in or affirm? Could you please state your name?
Candace Wright.
And do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you like to swear in or affirm without? Could you please state your name?
Trust better.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do swear.
Thank you. And do you have any evidence for me?
Yes. I didn't make copies, I just have one copy.
Okay, it will be up to the chair if you will take it, because we are required to have 5 copies.
Okay, I wasn't aware of the number of copies.
It's in the printout here that we gave you.
Okay, well, we'll look it over, and if it's not too difficult, we'll try to share it between us and the assessor as well.
Thank you.
I'm sure when you're ready you can proceed, but if you want to look over the material we have there, by all means, take your time.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start now. The subject property is roll number 0306490700. This is a vacant piece of land in Bridgewater Lakes with agricultural zoning. The land area is 0.82 acres. There is no water and no sewer. The 2020 assessment is $57,000, which is $69,512 per acre. The most recent sale was in 2013 for $55,000. I have 7 comparables that are all immediately next to the subject property. They are all 0.82 acres with agricultural zoning. All have no sewer, no water. The sales range from 2014 to 2016, and the sale prices range from $44,000 to $68,884, which is $53,755 to $84,243 per acre. So based on these comparables, I feel that the 2020 assessment of $57,000 for this property is accurate.
Thank you. If you have any questions of the assessor, you can ask them now. That's not the evidence you're gonna be providing us. You can do that in a minute. But right now, if you have any questions, you can ask them.
Oh, yeah, I have a question regarding the previous assessments and why the sudden change for 2020.
We look at land sales that are occurring. So the 2020 assessment is based on the market value as of April 1st, 2018. So we review sales such as these comparable properties that I've provided to calculate the new assessment.
So the 2014, the 2018 and 2019, which I included there, what were they based on? The
They were-
previous sales.
They are also based on land sales in the area.
Any other questions?
Those are the questions I have.
Okay. Ms. Davidson, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, just a couple. Is this land under production?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So it's literally vacant.
Yes.
So then this assessment is resulting because of the influence of urban development? Like it's not under farm use, right? It's just vacant?
No, and as far as I know, it doesn't, I don't think any of the comparables are either. It's a strip of land between Bridgewater Lakes and White Ridge.
Okay.
That is currently developed.
And what was the average increase in farm values for this area, this assessment?
I don't have specifically for this area. Overall in the entire city, it was approximately 13%, but that's a wide range of
Yeah.
areas and percent changes.
Okay, thank you. That's no more questions, thanks.
Ms. Rimple, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, I'm looking at your map showing the properties nearby, and also your comparables, and they all seem to be, it looks like a cookie cutter pretty well, 22 of an acre for each of the parcels.
Yeah, they're
So-
pretty much identical.
So it looks like it's a subdivision that's been entered, but there's no services, you can't build on it yet.
No.
But it's all subdivided, so once the services go in, it will be ready to build, right?
As far as I am aware, yes.
It looks like, yeah. And you know if there's any roadmap on when services are gonna be going in?
No, I'm not sure when services will be going in.
Do you know how close services are to the property right now? Just the property serviced?
Yeah, the properties on either side of those two areas are serviced.
So there are services to connect into, to put a sewer, et cetera, into?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, you have a lot of sales, I see, and they're helpful. Thank you very much, that's my question. Okay, you can provide your position now?
Yeah, so, thank you for this scheduling the hearing. What I've included is the copy of title showing registration on September 17, 2013, and there is one value of 55,000 at that time. I've included that title, and the other copy that I'm providing is the assessed value for 2014, because I bought this in 2013, which was supposed to be 75,600 at that time. And then I've been paying property taxes on this farm property. I just included for 2018 and 2019, and the assessed value for those past 2 years was 91,000. So when I received the 2020 property assessment, if your land is being decreased from 91,000 to 57, obviously you have to understand why, because I use it as collateral. I'm in real estate business as well, so it impacts on my ability to actually get some loans from the bank, because
Okay.
I was using that. Then for the 20, I also noticed that for the other properties that I bought, it has always been increasing, and that's why I was surprised that, well, this one all of a sudden dropped that much when the rest are being increased to to that extent, and so I've included that bit of the two other properties, especially the 311 Riverton Avenue property, where you keep increasing because the city gets more property taxes out of that. So I was suggesting that a fair deal would be to keep my farm property up in there and decrease the one which I'm owing, the 311 Riverton, and we equalize. You upgrade that, you decrease.
Okay, we don't have the power to do that, we can't do anything with Riverton, the only matter before us right now is this property.
Okay, so in summary, I'm asking that the value of the farm property be revised to reflect the upward trend that it has been on, and not to disadvantage me in terms of using it as my collateral as well. I can't refer, as you said, to the 311 Riverton, but yeah, we have been increasing all those other properties.
Okay, any questions? Sir?
Do you have any sales or market evidence in the area related to these properties?
For the 311 and my own house, yeah, I didn't compile it, but I've been looking and seeing what my neighbors are selling for.
For this property, the one under appeal?
This one?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the surrounding, like Bridgewater Forest and White Ridge. All those properties have gone up in value, so that land, there is no way it can be decreasing when it's surrounded by at least 500,000 properties and upwards. I know the value of those properties, I always look, but I didn't think I needed to compile that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Nichols?
Just a clarification, because I just looked at your information quickly. What was the last year's assessed value of this land?
It
Just
was
the agriculture-
91,000.
The agricultural land was
Yeah,
91,000?
it was 91,000, yeah.
And it's gone down to
To
57?
57, yeah.
Is that the trend in this area, of the comparables as well?
In this case, it's a unique group of properties because it's basically a strip of land between two developments. So we, for the 2020 assessment, we looked specifically at sales of these properties in particular to calculate our assessments.
So was it not divided the prior assessment year?
It was divided.
Because I'm just trying to get a sense of why it went down like 40,000.
I really can't comment on previous assessments. For this assessment, it would have been based on the sales that I've provided today.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Ripper, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
Okay, so what you want us to do is, you're here, you want us to increase the assessment on your property to what it was before? Is that what you're telling us?
That's what I'm asking.
Okay, you're aware of the fact that if we did that,
Mhm.
you'd be paying a lot more taxes than you would otherwise? I want you to be aware of that first of all. And secondly,
Mhm.
are you aware also of the fact that this valuation is only the value as at April the 1st of 2018? We're almost soon gonna be 2020, right? So if it was worth that in 2018, it doesn't mean that it's worth that now. It only means it was worth it then. And it's in accordance with other sales. A property is similar to your property that sold then. So the city has done is they've looked at properties that we're selling
Mhm.
adjacent to your property, they're very, very close by, in proximity and the same size and everything. And that's in fact what they were selling for, so they're saying, based on the sales, you know, you were overassessed before, and we feel it's unfair to charge you more taxes when the properties are selling for, in fact, what they were selling for. So they give you a lower assessment only on that basis. It doesn't mean that your property wouldn't sell for more today than it would have in April of 2018. So, you're aware of that? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
Okay, and you still want us to increase your assessment?
Yes, I want it to be increased.
Okay, I'm not sure if we can accommodate that for you. Okay, most people who come here want us to reduce their assessments. I gotta tell you, in all the years of on this board, I don't think,
I'll come back to reduce the
Yeah.
other one.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's good, but, you know, if you're using it for collateral, your bank would have to understand that doesn't mean that it's got that value today, that was the value in April 2018.
Okay.
It could very well be very different today, depending on what sales have been like lately, since then. So even giving you a higher valuation on April 1st of 2018 won't necessarily mean that the property's worth that today. Okay?
Yeah, I understand,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. I guess we'll deal with that in the difference.
Well, can I read this, which was a summary
Is that something you want to speak to?
it was a summary of what I included in the.
Oh, yeah, we'll give that to, yeah, it's all gonna be on the file, so if you
Yeah.
wanted to file an appeal,
Yeah.
they have all the evidence that was
Yeah,
provided today.
Yeah,
Okay, you're finished, you can leave now.
Okay.
You'll hear from us in the mail.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Neufeld, moving forward, you're on the second matter, which looks like some property on Municipal Road, question mark, property on Municipal Road.
Could you please state your name?
Roger, you tell us.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you have evidence on,
I'm gonna sort it for you, I'm just waiting, I don't have the assessors yet.
oh, did you not?
No, well, we
Okay.
don't exchange, right? That's fine. Do you want me to sort it for you while she's still on?
Sure,
Thanks.
thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, it doesn't take you long to assemble your evidence, because if it will, we can send you down.
No, no,
Okay?
it's fine. I'm very skilled at this sort of thing.
We're used to your skill.
Oh, it, I brought extras. You can start if you want.
No.
Or you wanna see it all?
I think with the session might want to see your evidence before.
Okay. All right. I had a morning hearing, you know, and I just finished a little after 12, and then I came down here.
We appreciate the greater support for that.
It's gonna bring food with me, too.
That would be nice, be probable.
Okay, here's 6 and a spare.
Okay, Ms. Rett, whenever you're ready, you can proceed, and take as much time if you want to review Mr. Neufeld's evidence before you begin, if you wish to.
Thank you. Okay, I'll begin now. The subject property is roll number 0100-406-3500. It's located on Municipal Road in the NC Ridgewood South. This is a vacant piece of land with agricultural zoning. It is 5.57 acres, and there is no sewer and no water. The 2020 assessment is $160,000, which works out to $28,716 per acre. I have 5 comparable properties here. Comparables 1 and 2 are located in Ridgewood South. Comparables 3 to 5 are located in Wilkes South. All are vacant land with agricultural zoning. The size ranges from 4.02 to 9.20 acres. All comparable properties have no water and no sewer. Comparable number 1 has light traffic, and comparable number 2 is landlocked. The sale price of these properties range from $100,000 to $450,000, which works out to $24,876 to $48,970 per acre. Based on these comparable properties, I feel that the 2020 assessment of $160,000 is accurate.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Wright?
Yes, have you inspected?
I did drive by the property, yes.
And tell me how you drove there.
I drove down Municipal Road,
And how far?
just past, it's past, I believe it's Veronic.
Right?
Yeah, just past Veronic, and then there's a walking trail, and the property's located right on the corner.
And was the roads, was there a road to drive on at that point?
There is a dirt road, yes.
Dirt road?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was getting, it's
Yeah.
not paved.
No,
Okay. And to develop in the city of Winnipeg, you do require paved roads, correct? You're aware,
Yes.
or, I'm
Sure.
not leading you on, but are you aware that you need paved roads to
Yes.
develop? And are your comparables located on paved roads or dirt roads?
comparables 3 to 5 are located in the Wilkes South neighborhood. I believe those roads may be paved. Comparable number 2 is actually landlocked, and comparable number 1 is located directly beside the property. There is access off of Charleswood Road for that one.
Right,
But it's
okay.
directly beside the.
And Charleswood Road runs all the way to Wilkes, correct?
Correct.
And Municipal Road does not, does it?
No, I don't believe so.
And your comparables on the south side of Wilkes, do you know what planning document controls their development?
I know it's different than the subject. I'm not
That's
sure they.
the South Wilkes secondary plan, and that permits development of 2 to 5 acre sites that are unserviced, correct? And the subject is in, you know what controls its planning?
I know it's in the precinct Q, Ridgewood South.
Right, and precinct Q has a number of different areas in it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So at this point in time, to your knowledge, is it developable?
Not at this point in time. However, comparables 1 and 2 are located within the same area, precinct Q.
Number 1 and number 2 are in precinct Q. Are they in the same development zone with Q?
I believe so.
And they ranged, one went for twice as much as the other did. Was there any consideration there to, like, did you check the motivation on these sales? Do you know what they were for? Or who purchased them?
I know 1 is likely for development. The fact that comparable 2 is completely landlocked likely also affected the sale price.
Okay. So you don't know who the purchaser is? You don't know if it was Qualico?
I believe one of them was, yes.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Davis, do you have any questions of the assessor?
I have no questions at this time, thank you.
Ms. Rebel, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions, thank you.
Okay. So I noticed that your comparable number 1 is a property right next to it. It's
Yes.
adjacent, so likely these 2 properties would be developed together if the same person could acquire both of them.
It's possible, yes.
Or in consultation with each other.
Sorry, is that an assumption you're making?
I'm saying it's a possibility. I'm not assuming anything.
Oh, okay, because it's not the case.
Well, and you'll absolutely be provided
Oh,
your
I
evidence
just-
to us.
I just want to be
Excuse me,
careful here.
when it's time for you to provide your evidence, so then I can ask you questions. But right now I'm asking the assessor,
Yeah, but
okay?
you asked her for an assumption that you had.
Well, that's something I asked her if she thought it was possible. It's an assumption I have, is a possibility.
All right.
I think it is a possibility, Mr. Ufeld. Look, they're adjacent to each other.
Well, no, you can't say it's a possibility.
I can.
You're leading, right? You
No,
can lead.
well, anyway,
Don't worry, it's all good fun here, aren't we?
I know. And the other parcel that we're talking about, which you have almost the same assessment on, is completely landlocked and it's smaller. It's in the same vicinity.
Comparable number 2, yes, it is landlocked.
And you know what the adjacent properties on there are and who the owners are?
The adjacent properties to comparable number 2,
Comparable to, yes.
I'm not aware of who owns the adjacent properties.
Are they developed, or are they also, from the map here, they're also vacant properties at this point? There's no plan of subdivision registered there, doesn't look like,
Not that I'm aware
from what I see here. And again, across the street, you can see there is a plan registered
Yes.
to the left.
Yeah, further west is the Ridgewood South development, yes.
Now, I'm aware of the fact that there is a lot of property in this area that is on a subdivision with cookie cutter lots that's been there like for probably 50 years, that there's no services in. Do you know where that property is compared to the subject property? I know it's on Ridgewood somewhere, but I don't know on the map where that would be, do you know?
The newer houses on Ridgewood or older?
No, it's a subdivision that was registered about 50 years ago, and it's never been serviced.
Okay, I'm not aware of that.
Okay,
This is Ridgewood.
okay. Thanks. Okay, that's my questions. Mr. Newfeld?
Yes.
Your evidence.
Okay, the property is essentially landlocked because the road that drives past it is unpaved and not able for development. It's a road that was set up for farm service, or when the land was farm usage, which was divided the river lots. And much like the section roads that you see, some are developed with right-of-ways and some aren't. Or some of the right-of-ways are developed, some aren't. So it's, and it dead ends before Wilkes, and it doesn't cross Wilkes. To the north is the walking path, and municipal road itself at this juncture is not considered to be a road of I don't know what you call it, an actual civic road. There've been lots of subdivisions in the area, and the city, the assessor's plan is very interesting. 1908 was the year that most of these subdivisions were made and registered. So a lot of them have been sitting for, I guess, 111 years. Most of those ones were done on Loudon, McCreary, and then Community Row. But all of the surveying was done in subdivision. So the city didn't really have a policy plan for this, and the subdivision, the houses just went up. They eventually did South Wilkes subdivision, South Wilkes secondary plan. It was around 2003, I think, and it legitimized the existing uses on named roads, allowing 2 and 5 acre lots unserviced. But when services came, they would be required to hook up to the city. Most of the landowners, of course, that want to live out there, they don't want to hook up to the city. Many of them do, but that'll change with time. Now, the one where we're located in is now called Precinct Q, and the genesis for that was in this map here. This comes from our Winnipeg plan. Our Winnipeg came out, I think it came out for review 2010 and was enacted in 2011. And these precinct plans came up. The concept behind the precinct plan is that development will only occur when a plan for the entire precinct is put forward. And it's named Q because Qualico owns most of the land. Some of these have been subdivided a bit further. Precinct A was subdivided into sections about 2 years ago. But the city's planning concept is they don't want piecemeal development happening. You have to submit a plan for the entire area. The difficulty is that you have to own the entire area generally to make it worthwhile, because you won't find 10 people who are all going to agree on a development plan. It's much more difficult. And Qualico bought the majority of this land in the sixties. This is a piece of land that they do not own. Now, subsequent to that, Qualico had precinct Q approved in 2013. And here is the phasing map. And you can see that the yellow marked areas can be serviced independently, and brown areas can be serviced independently, and then purple and blue cannot be serviced independently. And because of sewer extensions and major extension of external services. One case is land drainage, the other is wastewater. So we're in the pink zone. Now, even if the phasing is approved, or the sewage system is put in, that does not guarantee that development will happen. Because the reason that they do these phasing plans is that they can start their development in the areas where they're approved. And if they don't get to these other ones, that's fine. The same thing happened in Waverly West, where the land was divided into 6 sections. And A started first, and it's the one that's immediately, it's on the north. B is the last, and it's just being done now. The reason B was never developed was because there were too many independent owners, and the 2 project investors, which would be Lagville and Manitoba Housing, controlled A, C, D, E, and F. So theirs went first, and by planning in this direction, they got around the precinct concept of having everybody's all in, by simply saying it's a phase, and your phase is last. So now with Q, Qualico's done the same thing, and I don't think there's anything wrong or ethically wrong with what they did, being very reasonable and practical. They don't own as much of these lands as they want, so they've phased them into a phase that's going to be developed later. Now, when a piece of land comes up, of course, they're interested in buying it, but that's not market value. That's I've had a long day. That's called speculative value. Thank you, and not market. So what we did is we just looked at, we were looking for sales of farmland in the city limits that had similar access issues, and we had 2 that we found, number 1 and number 2. First is on Minerva, the other is on Charleston, and you can see that Minerva runs off Pembina Highway, and Charleston, it's not really Charleston, it runs off Charleswood Road, which is nearby, and you can see that it's landlocked. And the concept of landlocked is not just the physical issue, it's the legal issue. If you don't have a road, even if it's a right-of-way, you're still landlocked. And no one is going to make that road by themselves. The city isn't going to make the road. It has to be precinct Q people who do the road. And not only are they going to have to do the road in their section, they're going to have to do it into the other part of the section. So the developer's responsible for all of this. But now because they're phased, they can go on, carry on with their development, and do as they see fit. And you'll notice that in the phasing in the purple or pink, whatever it is, that they've actually differentiated between 2 and 3 in the zoning. You notice that? So they have approved number 2 and number 3, even though both require services, can be phased separately. So one of the sales the assessor brought forward is in that 2 section, so it would have a different timing on it than the other. And the one next door, by itself, now you realize that because the one adjacent to the subject being in number 3, you were correct. It will never be developed independently, all of 3. It'll be all or nothing for 3. And so our issue is it's just until something gets approved by council, at this point it'll be planning department, and developed, the value is still farmland. So the 12,000 an acre is what we're looking at, which is also close to what they paid for it. That's my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant?
So you would consider this property to be landlocked?
It's landlocked by, legally landlocked, yes. it doesn't have legal access, you can't get an approach on it. If you want an approach on it, like, you know, to develop it, you gotta have an approach, and to get an approach, you need a paved road. You get a paved road, you've gotta back up municipal all the way, and not just back up municipal all the way. Because municipal doesn't connect with Wilkes, then you'll also have to do a turnaround there for service vehicles, and you need to do a 45-foot turnaround circle.
Thank you.
That's your
That's all
question?
my questions, yeah.
Okay. Ms. David, do you have any questions of the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Revel, do you have any questions?
I just want to ensure I understand this correctly. You're looking for 12,000 per acre,
That's correct.
which is the same as it was in 2008
Well, that's what
when
they,
it was purchased?
yes, that's what they paid for it. Now, the land banking concept is very strange in that it doesn't follow the market. When most, like, I've been active in this work since about '96, and there's almost these benchmark numbers of development land inside the city of Winnipeg that you just buy, and this is the set price. So when I started in the late '90s, a few years after, the number was always 5,000 an acre. And then it crept forward to 8,000 an acre, and then 12. But the point is, that's as far as it's going to go until you get your development approved. Now, once you know your precinct plan is going to be met and satisfied and approved, the land jumps to 50,000 an acre generally. Once you get all of your financials in order and your phasing, your planning worked out, you can see values go to maybe 100,000, and then you're gonna spend 250,000 on servicing, and then you're gonna sell and your yield's gonna be 500,000 an acre. It's almost an automatic for these numbers. And it hasn't really changed much in the time, because we're always dealing with the roadblock of planning. Now, planning, what happened in the meantime is, up until a few years ago, until our Winnipeg came out, when somebody wanted to go ahead and do something like this, the obstacles in planning were a lot less. So I had a lot of clients who would do pocket development, and they would find a lot, might be 150 acres or something like that, and they would go and design it themselves, get it approved, and it could be anywhere. I had one client who just found a bunch of lots on Inkster and just developed and got approval. So when, first it was Plan 2020 started this, and then our Winnipeg came along and formalized it. Everything went to a precinct plan concept, so it stopped all these infill, or these pocket developments. Now it has to be go big or do nothing.
Can you tell me what the difference is between the gravel road that you have described and Fairmont Street?
Well,
From Wilkes to Ridgewood?
right, but a lot of the roads in Charleswood are gravel roads, and then they have ditches. And what the city maintains them, the gravel roads, by servicing them probably once or twice a year, laying down some gravel, and they have the ditches open for drainage, which most of Charleswood still has ditches. The difference on municipal road is it's just a dirt path. The land drainage isn't defined on the side, and they don't go to great efforts to keep it surfaced or maintained. When I went down there, and last time I was there was 2 years ago, you just have to make sure you got there in good weather. It's not a designated serviced road. And I lived in Dieppe for a while, so I'm familiar with the Charleswood road system.
And are you aware that not all the roads, even in the developed area, run down to Wilkes?
That's correct. There were only a few, and that's to deal with the railway crossings, is they're trying to minimize the crossings because they need controls. The issue with municipal is that, no, it likely will never hook up to Wilkes if it were to get developed. They'll probably do a side road parallel to the tracks and line up with the other roads. I did have a copy of that plan when I was reviewing earlier, and I don't have it with me today, right here.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. So you've given us some comparable or properties you consider comparables, but the city has comparables, like one right next door that's sold for double what your property's assessed at. Another one that's landlocked, that's assessed for almost what your property is assessed at in the vicinity, which is really landlocked. And I hate to disagree with you, Mr. Neufeld, but when you have a road allowance, when there's a road allowance here that has to be finished, no question, this property is not landlocked legally. A landlocked property legally is one where you need an easement over somebody else's property to get to that property. And there's a road allowance here
No.
that will, excuse me, they'll be finished someday.
Well, you're talking, I'm looking for the
Okay,
question.
answer my question now. Don't argue with me, just answer my question.
It's so much fun.
Okay.
It is legally locked because you say it's a road, it's a right-of-way that's
It's a right-of-way.
established, but you're not getting an approach on it.
It's available
You
right
will
away.
not get an approach until your road is paved.
See, the
Today,
difference-
you won't get it.
See, the difference between your property, well, you don't need it now because it's not developed. But the difference between your property is there is a road allowance to get to it, and comparable number two has got no road allowance. So they have to cooperate with neighbors.
There's no house or anything on our site.
No, I agree.
So if you thought that you'd like to put something on there, then you have to get access. You won't get access approved, because not even in industrial do you get approval without paved roads anymore in the city of Winnipeg. And there's some RMs that allow it, but not the city of Winnipeg. So someone's gonna have to do the whole road.
Sure, so part of the development scheme will be that you have to
So
put roads in.
spend a few $1 million then to bring in the road and do it all. No one's gonna do it until that portion of precinct Q gets developed, and that's all part of their plan. And on top of it, they're likely gonna close that road and reconfigure it.
Okay, and you know what, you might be very well right. So then tell me then why the city's comparables they've used that are right in the vicinity are not as good as yours.
Because the city comparables, I'm not disputing that they exist. First of all, the one at 24,000 is in phase 2, not 3. So it's going to happen at a different point in time. You read what it says there, you're gonna get its services from the adjacent phase, they're right there. And if you see the current plan, you can see that they've actually, I was just looking at this today, 2 days ago, one went before council to get the approval in that 2, I believe it was in phase 2. So phase 3 is gonna be set apart. So if a piece of land became available, it was going to be purchased on a speculative basis. It's not market value, it's speculative value. We're supposed to assess on market value. That's the difference.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're next doing item 4.
Do you need these? Because I got about 6 copies of them in my package.
Oh, no, no, I
No?
printed 6 extra. Do you want me to
Okay,
recycle?
Pass them out, maybe, it would be of interest.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Neef.
Always a pleasure to argue with you.
Okay, I guess our next property would be Stephen Symbolesti's property. Come forward, sir. It says number 4.
Here's what you want, I think. Well, maybe I need to do this first, go ahead.
Do you swear in or affirm without?
I swear in.
Swear in? Could you please state your name?
My name is Stephen Leo Symbolisti.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And your evidence now.
There are 6 copies here.
Awesome.
I kept one for myself, though. And
Okay.
I think that 6 copies is supposed to include me.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Who am I dealing with?
No, you can deal with
Mr.
me.
Chairman?
But right now, you know, with the assessor go forward with his evidence, then you can ask questions of him, and then you can provide your evidence after, if that's okay? So let the assessor go
After
forward.
he's finished, or
Yes.
she's finished. Oh, it's a he.
When you're ready.
We got a new one.
I didn't know if you wanted to swear me in or.
Oh, you have been sworn in,
Yes.
that's right. That's a good point.
I was just testing.
Would you like to swear in or affirm?
Fun and games.
Swear.
Could you
I think
please state your
everybody's
name?
got a sense of humor.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
So
but
far.
the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you for interrupting.
Okay, on the application form, there was both numbers were there, the farm use value and the regular property value. I wasn't sure if both of these were under appeal.
We asked for clarification from the applicant, if you want me to.
Yes.
Yeah. So with this, what the assessor saying is that you have two assessments, one for your house you live in, the other for the excess agricultural land?
There's no such thing.
No?
It's bare land. It's farmland.
Yeah, we have
Oh.
this vacant agriculture.
Oh, it's vacant agriculture?
Yeah.
All of it?
all the-
Okay, so I'm sorry, I guess I
There-
misunderstood
there
what
are-
you were saying.
Yeah, there's the farm, the.
Oh, farm use lease for part of
Costco
it.
30, the market value of the agricultural land and the farm use assessment applied to the property. So that's what I was wondering, if both of them were being appealed or the,
Can I give you some background that you may not have?
sure.
I have 60 years of background on this land.
Yeah, we'll hear it, go ahead.
Actually more, almost 80 years of background. I was born there. Anyhow, never mind. The land is, the 20.8 acres that I'm appealing, okay, is on one roll number, I believe. Yes, one roll number, but two titles. The city managed to merge the two titles onto one roll number, if you understand what I'm saying. So
Okay.
there's 1.1 acres on one
Okay,
of the pieces of land, and the rest is on the other title.
okay.
Okay, so I'm appealing them both because they're on one roll number, and to me, it's all one piece of property.
Okay, we're aware that there is the two lots, there is a divider. It's the two separate pieces of property. They are under one roll number,
Right,
separate titles, but we assess the whole property, like both pieces together.
right.
There isn't a breakdown of the class code 30 agricultural value versus class code 31, the farm use. Those numbers are different. One doesn't apply to the lot to the west, whereas the other number applies to the east. It's the class code 31 right now is applicable to the whole, the strip, even
Right.
though it's not contiguous. There is a divider. The assessments that exist apply to that entire property.
So all 20.83 acres.
Yes, yeah, we don't have it divided,
Right.
it's one roll number for both of the sections.
Okay.
So,
So how would they make an application for part of it then, if it's all in one roll and there's no natural separation of the exact, how assessment was arrested?
okay, that's what I was wondering, if the market value for that land is being appealed, or the farm use assessment. The class code 30 or class code 31, which is farm use.
Do you have a breakdown?
Yeah, it's on the,
Okay, I see.
on the assessment notice that came out, it would have been for the farm use value, 83,000, whereas the assessed value for the entire property is 240,000. If the property wasn't being cropped, I assume it is, we would leave the assessment at the $240,000. But according to our records, it is being used for commercial purposes, for commercial agricultural purposes. So that's why we've applied the farm use assessment value, which is the 83,000. So that's what I'm curious of.
Oh, so hang on, so if it is farm use, it's 83,000, if it's not, it's 240,000.
Correct.
Okay.
If it was in the open market, if it wasn't being used for
Right, it would,
farming purposes,
the market value would be 240,000.
correct.
Based on
But
sales.
since it is, as far as we know, I haven't been out inspecting
Okay,
lately, so
I assure you, it's farmed.
cropped, okay.
okay, so you're happy with 83,000 as the total assessment, or are you?
I'm not happy with either of those numbers.
Well, no, it's the number though, if in fact you get a farm use assessment, it'll be 83,000, if you don't, it'll be 240. I mean, depending, certainly you can argue that your property's not worth $83,000 in
There
farm
is a
land.
reason why I am not happy with both numbers.
Okay,
Because the assessment, I've been fighting the assessment
okay,
department.
you know, absolutely you can provide your evidence. I think what
Okay,
the assessor wants to
that's
know
fine.
is what he's got to defend,
All right,
okay?
but like I say, I am appealing both numbers. And it'll become clear to you once I read my,
Absolutely, okay.
Package.
Well, we'll just go first, and hopefully if we have any questions, we'll ask them to you once we
well, I
know what questions to ask. I don't even know that yet.
hope so, okay,
Okay.
fair enough.
Okay, for beginners, I'll supply sales comparisons for the agricultural land in itself, not the farm use, but the market value of that, the strip of land. I'm not sure which order the sales comparisons, I forget which order I put them in. For sales comparisons, you'll see at the bottom, 2020 assessment rule, 240,000.
Right,
Okay, so that's the sales comparisons I'll go through first. Roll number 500637500, it's on Holmes Road, there's no civic address applied to the property. It's in the Old Kildonan neighborhood. Parcel use code vacant agricultural, and it's just under 21 acres. Zoned as agricultural, due to the proximity to the perimeter, we have it influence heavy traffic, and there's of course no sewer water. The sales comparisons that have occurred, they're all in the same neighborhood in the Old Kildonan area, all vacant agricultural. The acreage varies, you see 20 up to approximately 42 acres. Zoning agricultural, and influences very similar, heavy traffic, no sewer water. Sale dates, October 2015, and the most recent, September 2017. 675,000, 1.2 million, 700, 902, and 1.1 million. Works out to, you'll see, from 60 to 77 cents a square foot or acre, by the acre, 27 up to 33,000 per acre. So the 2020 assessment roll value, 240,000, works out to 11,522 per acre, or 26 cents a square foot. So that's the sales based on the market value that the properties put up for sale. As an investment property, for example, our estimate is it would sell for approximately 240,000. And the following page is a map. It shows in the top left corner, you'll see the subject property. It is split due to the 101. Comparables, all in the Old Kildonan area. So there's a variety. The comparable number 5 on McPhillips, it is also split. It's 2 separate lots, sold under one roll number. So that's the sales for the market value. Now, if you like, I could supply the farm use, or would you prefer?
I think let's do everything together and,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. For the 2020 assessment, for the farm use rate, we used $4,000 an acre. For the reassessments, we get a report from the provincial government to show what properties that are used strictly for farm purposes, what they're selling for. Throughout the province, there's quite a range of sales. Basically, it's depending on the quality of the soil. For example, south, eastward with Altona, that area, soil is very fertile. The sales are, some of them I was looking at were over $12,000 an acre. Whereas southwestern Manitoba, along Highway 83, north of Verdun, etc., it's a sandy soil. It's selling for much lower because the crops aren't the best due to there's more drought goes on there due to the sandy soil compared to the southern area. So what we did was took a look at sales. Sales like this don't, for farm use, don't occur within city limits anymore.
Right, if
So-
go inside the city.
That's why we had to go outside city limits. There's some sales in the, try to keep it as close as possible to the subject. There's the Rosser municipality. The last page, you'll see an outline of the capital region. You'll see Rosser is to the northwest of the city, Winnipeg itself, so we kept the sales within that area, close as possible. And since the subject properties at the top are the northwest corner of the city limits, it is relatively close to the Rosser municipality. Sales, or you see the 2020 assessment, farm use value $83,000 or just under $4,000 an acre. The sales, there's quite a range, 10 up to 94 acres. The sale price per acre from the approximately 3,600 up to 7,400. So there's a range of farm use properties or property that is used strictly for farming purposes. That's what they were selling for, from 4,000 up to 7,000 an acre. So the assessment of the farm use rate we used this reassessment was 4,000 an acre. So we feel that based on the facts supplied by the provincial assessment to do the soil analysis, sale prices, we feel that the assessment of 83,000 is accurate.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. You can ask the assessor any questions you might have right now?
Him?
Yep.
I guess so, it'll fall into this category. I was gonna ask them later on, after I made my own presentation.
Yeah, no, now you can ask questions, then you make your presentation, and then he'll ask you questions.
Okay, so.
So the questions are based not on your information, well, yeah, you can ask your question on anything, but if there's anything that he said that you think is inaccurate or you want clarification on,
Yeah,
now's the time to ask him.
I would have one question there.
Okay, certainly, go ahead.
And the question surrounds the comparable properties that you've shown on
Okay.
that page.
Yeah.
You've highlighted the property that's mine, which is the one that's highlighted in yellow.
Yes.
That's the, what do you call it? Property in question here, the
The subject
20.8
property,
acres,
yes.
okay? The highlighted, the property next to the highlighted area, which would be to the left, was sold in 2015. That one is not on the comparable, and it's almost identical in terms of size and in terms of where it's located, the fact that it's split in half by the perimeter, as you can see by the picture there. So my question is, why wasn't it on the comparable?
What was the date of the sale?
2015,
Early 2015?
mid-time, before the crops went in, let's put it that way, okay? So that would be before, probably before June. I didn't bring that piece of information
No,
for you,
it's okay.
but
I
it was
take your word
definitely
for it.
2015.
I take your word for it. Offhand, I can't tell you why that one was missed. Was it a market sale?
Oh, it was a market sale,
Yeah, okay.
just as background.
Okay.
The three pieces, and the next one to that piece, were the three pieces that belonged to my family, my mother and father. And they were, the lots were basically allocated to the three children. I'm one of them, and my two sisters owned the other two.
Okay.
Two sisters are now deceased.
Okay, you know, you're asking questions now, you simply give us this information, if you have any questions right now?
Well, I'm just trying to explain why I'm asking why this was not there.
Well, okay, and I think he said he doesn't know why it should have been.
Yeah, I
So that's all we have for now, but certainly I'll let you tell us all about it when it's your time.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
fair enough, fair enough. Okay,
Okay.
shut up.
Yeah, no, you don't have to shut up, you can ask,
Just be quiet.
you're time to ask any questions that you have.
Okay, I don't have any questions
Okay.
really with respect to this.
Okay, well, what
except-
do you tell us about the
May
properties?
I just direct one comment
Absolutely, go ahead.
to the gentleman? It would have been nice if you had submitted all this information to us like we had to submit it to you before this meeting. It's awful difficult to try and figure out what you have done here in your package from the diagrams and from your, what do you call these, comparables.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for me to question them why you use these comparables, and that's the comment I'm making.
Okay,
As far as I know, it was submitted. For residential, we submit our materials at least 24 hours prior to the hearing. So you didn't receive a copy of our materials?
I got it today,
Today? Okay, just like I received yours today.
just like you got yours today, that's the same kind
Okay.
of thing, okay? What I'm suggesting here is it's awful hard for me to attack your
okay,
presentation.
and you know, this is something that I've heard over before, and it's,
Well,
you
I'm
know, so
going to
I-
do that now that I'm gonna have a chance here.
Yeah, we recognize that, and, you know, but if you,
I
that's why I'll give you
appreciate
liberal time, if you see anything in that material that you want to question, I'll give you an opportunity of asking it.
Okay, at this point, I don't have any other,
Okay, if you decide you have some, we'll let you ask them then, okay?
pardon me?
I said, if you did come up with a question, even after, I'll let you ask it.
Okay,
Okay.
can I ask during my presentation?
You know what, I'm gonna let you do what you have to do when you want to do it. I'm not gonna restrict you on your presentation.
Okay,
Okay, so any questions of the assessor?
I just have a couple,
Go ahead.
they're for clarification. So we have, the farm use value and we have the market value here. So people apply for the farm use value, the city is the one that approves it, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, sorry, oh,
Yeah, generally, the application, I took a look, I couldn't find an application form. It was probably assumed many years ago that we applied to, that it was in farm use, and that's
Yeah,
why it's
that's-
been in place ever since.
sure.
Yeah.
So on both of these class codes, are they both 20.83 acres?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the other question I have, just for my own edification, is the $4,000 per acre, in terms of your methodology. You're using that by taking all of the farm values provided by the provincial this is a question, provincial assessment department all across the province to come up? Or do you stratify it by, you know, area or municipality like Rosser or
We get
wherever?
we get a list from the province, it
Right.
doesn't include every
No,
farm property
Right.
that have sold, so we try and narrow it down as close as possible. In
Okay.
this area, or at least Rosser is pretty close to the subject,
Right.
so that's why we stuck to that.
so when you came up with 4,000, is that based on sales in Rosser?
No, it was based on, kinda did our own analysis, narrowed down as close as we could, throw out the outliers, some farm use or agricultural property sold for extreme numbers, so ones like that are discarded,
Right.
and keep as close as possible to ones that can be assured are being used strictly for farm use. So, it's not an exact, I wish we could do our own analysis, but this number of agricultural properties in city limits isn't,
It's not many.
no.
And it makes sense what you're doing, in my view. So, just one last quick question. So 4,000 wouldn't be used for farmland within the south end of the city?
For this reassessment, we're using 4,000 for all the properties that are eligible for the farm use.
Regardless of the soil conditions or the type of crops they can do?
Right,
Okay.
it's.
So it's
'cause
not exactly market value?
It's, It's the analysis that, if we could do our own soil checks, it'd be nice if we could do it within city limits, but due to the amount of agricultural disappearing, it's not really our highest priority, but, so that's why we rely
Sure.
upon the provincial information
Okay.
office.
All right, thank you, that helps me, thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Whipple, do you have any questions of the assessor?
I'm just wondering if this is the first year that the confusion about farm property versus farm use value has arisen with this particular subject property.
Generally,
If you're aware of that.
there's been a lot of appeals for the class code 30 for the, I shouldn't say a lot, but for the market value, whereas when it comes to the class code 30 farm use, that doesn't come up very often. There's certain people that deal with that, have brought it up in the past for the class code 30, or 31 for the farm use. It doesn't occur very often because a lot of times it's given a substantial, I guess property taxes affect some people's opinion on values, so that's why it's, the farm use numbers aren't questioned too often.
And you say that there is no farm use permit that could be found for this particular property, did I hear you correctly? If it was filed at-
An appeal application?
No, does a permit not have to be filed if a property is used for farm use with the city?
Oh, the application?
A farm use permit, yeah.
Yeah, we have our own, over the past couple of years, the agricultural properties haven't been done for quite some time. We were contemplating whether or not to send out the application forms to everybody who currently have the farm use. Because we found that there is some property owners that are getting the farm use assessment, but it's not being used for commercial crop production. So that's where we're thinking about sending out the applications again.
And did you say you were aware that this subject property was being farmed?
I was going by aerial photos, the most recent aerial photos of the whole area. By the looks of it, it is being used, still being used for commercial crop production. I remember we spoke 10, 15 years ago, and it was.
You and I?
Yeah, it was used, same thing.
What's your name? I didn't hear the name when you were introduced yourself. What is your name?
Strachan.
Who?
Strachan, or Strawn, whichever way you want to.
Last
It was
name?
many years ago.
Yeah, well, I know, but I've been appealing these things for a long time, too.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking. I've got a history of that, too. Anyway, I'm sorry,
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, there was we may, maybe after this, once we're done appeals, we'll probably discuss this and possibly send out the application forms again to see what the results are.
Okay, thank you.
So just for clarification, right now, this gentleman is getting the farm class assessment, and he's paying $183,000. If we were to confirm this, and not 100, or not, was it 140,000 or 40,000? Yeah, he's getting the 83,000 assessment right now, correct?
Yeah, the.
And you want us to approve, we want us to do on both, and the city will determine what the entitlement is, but right now it is entitled to the farm class.
Correct, the
Okay.
83,000 is the tax.
In other words, code 31 it right now is.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. You can provide your evidence now, sir.
I can present mine?
You can.
Okay, thank you. All right, you've each got a copy of
Okay,
this.
I just want to make sure you're aware though, you know that you're paying taxes based on an assessment of $83,000 right now,
Oh, I know
because
that.
you have a designated farm class.
Yeah, but I don't have a current assessment at 83,000, so that's why I'm
Okay,
appealing, okay?
okay,
And the method of getting to that is also in the process. I guess I'm saying, in effect, get back to the old ways. You used to do things 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, since farm use property was first.
Okay, make your application, we'll deal with it.
Okay, so quickly, I will give you some background. That's the
Okay.
first page. Okay, the purpose is because I've experienced significant increases in both the farm use value and the fair market value, which is what the gentleman across there calls current market value. Same thing. That's what he should be able to sell that land on an open market. Okay. I spoke to assessors and they volunteered that the $4,000 per acre is the universal cost, if you will, for all farmland in city of Winnipeg. At least the fair market value of that.
Well, that's the assessed amount anyway.
Yeah, that's the amount. Okay, and I did have some inquiries. One was, how did you get the 4,000? I didn't get a response for that this year, last year, or the year before, and each of these years, I've been appealing that $4,000 figure. And this one also I'm doing. There's a reason for that too.
Okay,
Okay, and the responses that I got were vague. I had no indication of what the fair market value might have been when I talked to, I don't know who I talked to. It was a lady called, what did I say her name was?
Candace?
Candace, yes, I'm sorry, thank you. You read faster than I do. And she didn't have any information, okay? Now, I go back to some of the history now when farm use certificates became into force, or came into force. And they came into force in 1994. For obvious reasons, because they were all being assessed, or the land was being assessed at fair market value with no discount or allowance for the fact that it's farming. They don't have the services that the city provides. No roads, no fire service, no police service, no nothing. If you have a problem, you phone the RCMP. Anyhow, getting back to that. At the time of the creation of this classification, a decision was made to establish farm use values at 35% of the farm property current values. That number is key because it influences the value that is applied for farm use purposes and for taxation on this land. That 35% factor was used until 2016, so it has a long history. It's not just yesterday, the day before, or the day before that. It was a long history. I can't establish whether it was by regulation or how, but that formula was used. The city applied it. We agreed with it. It's a little more complicated now, but it's still an agreeable and fair way of allocating fair market, or at least farm use value, against all farm property. It's the same factor. Doesn't matter whether you're in the south end, the north end, the east end, or west end. And it was basically predicated on the fair market value, not by some guess or by golly, which you'll read later is what I'm saying about the 4,000 figure that they've been trying to enforce on us or impose on us, which I have consistently appealed and have had board of directors, excuse me, board of revision people agree with my position, all right? So that gives you up to almost the last paragraph. And the last paragraph basically says the 2020 investment is back to, again, to the 4,000 per acre factor. And that's why I'm appealing it, because you're not following at least what I consider were the rules that were laid down when farm use category 31 was created. The gentleman across has indicated that they do not have any statistical knowledge of what pure farm use sales we're going at. In other words, these are sales based on, these are numbers based on the fair market value, with some manipulation of that fair market value to get to what they believe is the current fair market value of the land. That's the $4,000 that the assessment department is foisting on us, on me at least anyway. Okay, so Schedule 1, which is the next page, gives you the history back to 2016 of the current value of the property, okay? Year by year, and then in 2016, as you read, it says 137, and Board of Revision, excuse me, agreed to 137. There was no dispute there. 2018 is 172, Board of Revision went to 172, no agreement, again, full agreement. And then the 2020 farm property current value that these gentlemen are proposing for the whole piece, the 20 acres, has jumped to 240,000, or 39%, 39.5% increase. That's a problem. For me, okay? And the same thing on farm use, you'll see the other way, the other half of it where it says farm use at the top. The farm use value was, by the assessment department, was established at 54,100. And it represented 39.5%, or close to the $4,000 per acre number. And that was reduced by appeal to getting back to the 35% factor that they should have been using, in my opinion. And the same thing with the 2018. They proposed a value of $83,000, which meant an increase of 48%, when in fact the Board of Revision approved 60.2 thousand, and got back to the 35% factor that we have been using historically. Now in 2020, they've come up with a proposed valuation of 83,000, and you notice very coincidentally how close that 83,000 is to the original way they should have done it, 35% of fair market value. My question and my position is there's no darn way that in 2 years that property rose from 172,000, which in the board's better judgment, if you will, or whatever, judgment, let's just say better or other. And all of a sudden now they want to go to 83, which is a 37% increase. That's the increase at the far side. Now, part of the thing that I had to come up with is how come it got to 240,000? Okay, so I basically have access to the land that I said that was adjacent to the property that is mine. It was owned by my sister. She's now passed away. Land is in her estate and is being administered by one of her sons, who is the official administrator. So I was able to get information from him that was not readily available to anybody else other than these gentlemen could have got it. It's private information. And that private information, or that comparison, which I get back to, is on Schedule 2, which is the last schedule on my presentations. The last page, excuse me. Should have brought some more. Talking too much, okay. So again, I looked at it and I said, okay, this is my roll number, 500-637300, and the roll number of the property immediately to the, like I said, to the left, and it is to the left, okay, is roll number 6280000. The 500 is not going to, oh yeah, it was repeated. So again, now I'm looking at the same information is being presented here. Okay, this is what happened, and I've appealed each of these numbers, so I can say this was the valuation that the assessment department put on it. Fair value was 137,016. It was reduced to 130.9 by the Board of Revision. Not very much, okay. The farm use value was 54.1, reduced to 48. And that was to get it back close to the 35% that they should have been using all along, for 35% of fair value, okay. Okay, and now the next one is the 2008. We'll just go down that first half of the report first. The assessment value that the assessment department proposed was 172. I didn't appeal to 172, but it was confirmed through the Board of Revision document that I got from them. The farm use value was 83. That was reduced by the Board of Revision to 60.2. the 83,000 represented 48% of the fair market value. When up until that time and before, that should have represented 35% of the value, not 48, and that's what the 60,200 is. It's 35% of that 172,000, and gave us a value of $28.95 for the land for farm use purposes, or a market value of $82.69, which is the same. Now comes in 2020. The jump is to 240, again, a 39% increase over the 2018 assessment, which drove the $83,000 number, okay? At this point in time, 83,000 represents 34.6% of the 240,000, which normally would have been 35% had they been following the historic pattern, if you will, or regulation, if that is what a regulation. But it gave a value of $39.90, which supports their $4,000 per acre number. By comparing those numbers now against the comparable land right immediately to the other side, it's quite a bit different, and there's a reason for that too. In 2016, yes, the fair market value is 164. It was not appealed, so it just went across. The farm use value was at 34%, again, close to the 35, and granted a farm use value of 29 or 25.97. In 2018, the assessment department deemed that that property was worth $245,000. Unbeknownst to me to this day, because I bugged my nephew why the heck he didn't appeal last year, should have. So he was stuck with an $86,000 farm use value. That's his problem, he's got to deal with it. And by applying 35% to that fair value of $245,000, you end up with $39.80 per acre as the official, according to the assessment department, the official farm use value of that property, which confirms the $4,000 that they're using now. Okay, but it got there because he didn't appeal. Had he appealed, he would have probably got the same kind of answer as I did. It's too high, should have come down. Now, 2020 comes along, and you see that in the assessment department, the value of that roll number 6280000 stayed the same, 245,000. They didn't up it anymore. Yet, when you look at mine, from 172 to 240, they upped it by 39.5%. As far as I'm concerned, that value, that land, and the value is fictitious. Nothing happened in 2 years to support an increase of $68,000 on that land.
Okay.
So I'm appealing both, all right?
Okay.
I want, on the one hand, get back to the 35% of fair market value to be the value going to farm use, for farm use purposes. And correspondingly, the 240,000 shouldn't be any more than the land value was in 2018. It wasn't on your comparison, or when I say your, excuse me, your assessment of the land immediately next to it did not go up between 2018 and 2020. It didn't go up on that land, and it's right adjacent, the same size, same everything, same distance. Why is it going up 39% on mine?
Okay. That's your
So
position.
that's my appeal.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions of the applicant, you can ask them now.
Are the requested assessment, revised assessment, is it being based on, strictly on the stats from previous years? Is that how you're working out the,
Which one?
well, the
Which?
overall value,
Well, the overall value is in this column, the first column, if you will, of that comparison, is what you originally said it was worth, and the Board of Revision agreed, because I wasn't appealing it. Okay, so
right?
137, oh, that's not exactly right, because there was an appeal, I guess, in 2016. The value was reduced by about $6,000. In 2018, it became 172 coming from the assessment department. I didn't appeal, so it stayed there. The only thing I appealed was the 83,000, because now you want, this is the first time that you really wanted the $4,000 per acre applied to the value of farmland. And I'm saying no. Nothing's happened to that farmland to warrant an increase from what would normally have been $2,895 to $4,000. Other than whatever machinations you folks went through in the assessment department. And I'm saying if none of that thing changed, you know, and that Board of Revision, excuse me, agreed with me. So now I'm going to 2020 and saying, okay, if nothing changed in 2020 on comparable property, why is mine going up that much?
Okay, that's.
Basically, that's the question.
Okay.
I guess maybe you're trying to answer, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Hard to
Just,
talk.
so to come up with a number, you're basing it on stats from previous assessments?
Well, it is a previous assessment.
I think he's clear.
It was
that
your
he's saying-
assessment.
Excuse me, just really quick. I think he's saying that based on the last application, his property has increased in value since then. The Board of Revision reduced it last time, so it should maintain the same value, it hasn't gone up. And 35% of that would give him what he got from the Board of Revision last time. I think that's his position, is it not?
Basically,
Yeah.
in a nutshell, something along that line.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Based on sales out in that general area, do you feel market or sale prices have gone up?
No, I was trying to sell this land for about 5 years. No biters, excuse me.
Based on sales, the land sales that I supplied, do you feel that?
You know, let me make a summation, Mr. Stroud. I don't think asking a question this way. If you want to emphasize that position, I'll let you do that, but I don't think it's, you're going to get there with the question.
Okay. Did you supply any sales comparisons for either the market value or
The history.
farm use value?
No, there is none. There are no statistics for the farm use value. That's the whole point. It was a calculated number when the farm use certificates came into being back in '94 to be 35% of the fair market value, okay? And you and the assessment department and whoever else did this work applied that until 2016.
Okay.
35% factor became fair market value. All of a sudden, you have started, or not you personally, but the assessment department has started to force the $4,000 figure onto this land as the value.
Okay.
And I'm saying what's causing that, because you have no statistics to support it. Or if you did, I would have liked to have seen it. And the secondary region, it's been applied
Okay.
historically at 35%.
Mr. Stroud, I
What's
think you got your
changed?
answer, and I'll let you make if you want to, I'll let you make a summation based on what you think the evidence led to. But I don't think asking questions in that regard is going to get us there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If you have any other questions, you can ask them, but other than that, anything
No,
else?
I'll just,
Okay.
well, sales that have occurred, they're, the way I explained before.
I'll let you make a summation on that basis about sales. Okay,
I was
yeah.
going to ask, are you aware that there was sales of farm property other places within the province of Manitoba?
I don't have access to that information, you do, I don't. Well, I guess I could if I made an issue of it, but I didn't.
Right, the,
All I know is, if I may answer it a different way to you, there isn't a farmer in Canada, or Manitoba, excuse me, we're talking Manitoba, that will pay $4,000 an acre for a land, for farmland. Because it doesn't fit any profit model that they ever tried to put together. And I'll tell you why, just briefly. $4,000 an acre, it's gonna cost him probably 4% interest on that for a year, just to handle it. I'm not taking an exorbitant number, as you can see. It's probably what he would be normally paying on his line of credit, or however he arranged his financing. So that works out to $160 a year cost to him just for owning the land. On top of that, he'd have to pay taxes. And the tax bill on this land is about, as I remember, $21 an acre last year, okay? So if you want that confirmed, I'll figure it out.
No, I take your word for it.
So just those two elements have driven up $185 worth of cost to the farmer.
Right.
He hasn't spent a single penny on input costs or recognized any other costs.
Okay.
And on an acre of land in this area, because I used to farm it with my dad, I have a pretty good idea of what yields are for cereal property, for cereal grains, excuse me, and the cereal grain prices in effect. There's no way that he's gonna make a buck. He'll be happy if he covered just the $160 or $185 that it cost him to own it. And that's why they're not buying it, they lease it. That's why I'm leasing that land to a farmer now. Not because I'm making money on it, but I'm leasing it to him at a price that he can make money. To me, you say, well, why the hell would you want to do that? Well, there's a good reason for that too. He keeps the land clean, I don't have to worry about weeds. If I didn't, you know what would happen? I'd get bogged by the city to get rid of the weeds. If I didn't have the machinery to do it, I'd have to hire somebody to do it. And it's a cost more to me. So there's a reason why I don't push lease prices up.
Do you feel that, I supplied 4 sales comparisons in the Rosser municipality, do you feel these aren't accurate
I
sale
don't know
prices?
where in Rosser these are, because this is basically the description, title description of the land.
Yes. Yeah, we're.
From the map, it's hard to tell where they are.
Right.
Uh,
No, I agree with you there. It
And
was just.
you know,
they're all
and the
within-
distance, the main thing here is the distance between where this Rosser property is and how close it is to development. Because your fair market value, remember, has a factor of imputed value based on what others have sold it for, either, or bought it for, either for investment, a good deal, well, I can wait up a few years and get the better price, because prices will go up once development gets closer, or by developers themselves.
Okay, I have no other questions.
Thank you. Students, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Just one question. I heard what you indicated, obviously the land have to pay a certain amount. If it's too high, you're not gonna make money on farming because of all of what you indicated. So you're saying 4,000 is too high?
Absolutely,
Okay.
no doubt, in my mind,
Yeah,
okay?
based on
Based on a
productivity you're
farming
talking about.
operation.
Yeah, and the assessor provided those comparables, but we don't know from what you're saying where in Rosser exactly they are, whether they're used for cereal production like your land,
Or
or
whatever the
whether there's
production
a
is, yeah.
speculative content. So are you then saying that the methodology that came out to $3,500, is that the actual market value of land that you feel your land would be worth
No.
for to make money as a farmer?
No, you
in
couldn't,
production?
you couldn't do that.
What is the value then of
Of that
for
land,
farm use?
for farming use only,
Yes.
probably no more than $50 an acre, would you believe it? Because that's the component of his input costs of that, what I call the profit model that the
Yeah, I
farmer would have
understand.
to work with.
So you're saying it's $50 an acre, not even
Not even, yeah,
3,500?
it's absolutely,
Okay, our numbers are really moving, so I
is,
appreciate what
it
you're
is.
saying, and I do
It is.
understand what you're.
but there are reasons that people
Right.
do farm.
Right,
Some of it is actually land values appreciate, even for farmers they appreciate.
absolutely.
But what I'm saying is, this land is not appreciated for farming purposes to $4,000 an acre. I'm not arguing with the 35% number that I've previously brought forward here, because in my estimation, that is at least a fairer way of allocating farm use value, whether it's absolute at $3,800 or whatever it is. Because everybody is paying on the same basis. That percent of fair value is what farm use value becomes, and farm use value is the basis for your tax bill when it finally comes from the city.
Right.
So, sorry.
So then, your ask, though, is what it was in the previous year for both your market value assessment. So you would like to see 172,000
Yes,
and,
420,
and where's that
And
number?
back to
60,000. And 60,000.
60, I believe, something like 60.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Which gets us back to the old way of doing things instead of having to worry where the $4,000 came from.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Greco?
I, just a point of clarification, on your Schedule 2,
Yeah,
the fair market appeal roll number,
which, roll number, which one?
your roll number?
Yeah, that's my roll number.
Is that your roll number? Because on the information we were provided, it said it is 0500 6375. And this says 6373. It should be 6375.
No, it should be 67.3 because I got that off of my tax return, or not tax return, but the tax bill that I got from the city. So, and I didn't bring a copy of that, I'm sorry. Didn't think I needed it. Well, wait a minute, hold on, just a minute. There was a confusion over roll numbers once at the time that the city, that the city merged those two titles under one roll number.
Okay, so maybe it was 6373 and 6375 at one point?
It could have been one or
And
the
it
other.
became 6375?
And I don't know whether.
I'm now asking the
Yeah,
assessor,
yeah.
just to make sure.
On the appeal application form, as soon as the appellant that filled it out, it's 75000.
500.
Yeah, that's what I put on the application form.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I can't disprove you or prove
Okay.
you.
No,
I can only say that I copied this from the tax bill, and it's possible I made a digit number.
Okay, but it is your property now.
That is definitely my
Okay.
property, at least everything else describes it.
And for clarification purposes, this Schedule 2, this other property is the one right beside your
That's
property?
the one right beside it that my nephew is looking after, yes.
Okay, and so your nephew, you say his assessment value has not changed from 2018 to 2020?
That's correct.
It's exactly the same? And so you're indicating that your desire is to have yours remain the same as well?
If there were no reasons for the assessment department to raise his, there should be no reason to raise mine. Given that my number for the year before, which was 2018, was the one that I presented and the board approved, and the board of revision confirmed, let's not say approved. I don't know if you have powers to approve anything.
Okay.
Sorry.
So then the 35% wouldn't apply to either one?
Yes, it does. The 35% is what the historic application was. Any time that you see Board of Revision approval, if you use 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth, I've got to be careful here how I put this to you because it's going to confuse the heck out of you. Well, it's got to be on number 1, sorry. You may have to slip back to number 1 to show
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. That's,
the difference, but the difference is that the 35% was applied consistently right up to last year, or 2018, excuse me.
Okay.
so I have a question now. So the property next to yours was valued at fair market value of $11,343, and they didn't appeal it. And it's the same value now, $11,343. Yours was originally valued at about the same amount, a little bit more. You appealed it, you had it reduced on your application. And now you're making another application because it's been increased back up to what it was before you made your last
Well,
application.
before that
Basically?
and then
Yeah.
some.
How much are you renting out for, just for curiosity?
How many?
How much rent are you getting per acre?
Oh, $32 or $33 an acre.
So,
That's it. I tried to raise it and the guy said, sorry, I can't afford it. He can't afford it, I gotta look after the
well, basically, I guess he's got a captive audience. Not everybody wants to farm that property.
property.
It's a small piece.
I-
So it's a guy who's already next door to you already?
No.
Somebody in the very near vicinity of you? If he doesn't, if you've got a small acreage, I guess.
Yeah,
So you don't really have a captive audience to necessarily farm it.
Well, that's
Piecemeal.
right, that's right.
So you have to
That's
take
why
what
I
you-
was
you've got to
looking
take what
at,
you can get.
I was looking after this
Yeah.
whole 75 acres when it
Yeah.
was all in the family.
Right.
And dealing with that one farmer for the whole 75
Does he also
acres.
rent from your nephew next door?
Have I what?
Does he also rent the land from your nephew next door? The
Yeah, I
farmer?
dealt for his property as well, yeah.
Yeah, and he's getting $33 an acre for that one as
Yeah,
well?
he just said, get whatever you can and pay for the taxes and, you know, I might get enough money to take my wife out for dinner or something, you know, to that effect.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, sorry, on AECS it says 30F at 157 and then 31T at 83 for a total of 240. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can I finish up? Am I finished?
Yeah, you're finished, thank you.
Well, thank you
You'll hear
very
from
much
us.
for listening to
Well, thanks for,
an old farmer.
thank you, no, thank you, I got some education today. There's things I
Yes.
found out I didn't know before, so I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Can I just make my final?
Okay. Submit, the assistant wants us to make a final statement, and I'll let you make one too if you wish.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I told you I'd let you do that, sorry about that.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Either did I.
The assessment of 240,000, cost code 30, current value is based on sales such as, or the sales in the old Kildona neighborhood. Those sales may have been investments, endeavors, etc., but since the property is not being used for investment purposes right now, it's being strictly farmed. So that value is just the current value. The Costco 31 farm use is based on sales analysis from the information we received from the province of Manitoba. The sales they supplied for the farm use are agricultural properties. That land sale is being used for farm only, for farming purposes only, commercial crop development. So it's those sales coming in anywhere from, what was it, 36 to 7,000 an acre. Those sales were strictly farm property being used for production. Thank you.
Can I ask you one question? So you don't take then the fair market value of the property that you determined, and take 35% of it to get a farm use? It's just basically use the comparables that you get from the province of what farmland's selling for in the vicinity?
Correct. We do the analysis with the
Okay.
sale prices per acre.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a counter question.
No, you can actually get a percentage.
And the question I raise, if you have all these statistics, why can't I get a hold of them? To confirm them if for nothing else. I haven't been getting that for the last 4 years.
The information's available. We have sales information on our website. The provincial government, they have a website, it shows sales. The provincial
I'm
assessment.
sorry, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
But don't your assessors have that same information so that when I ask them, where did you get the $4,000 figure, that they can provide that to me? In more, in more detail than just what you indicated to us.
we get a batch of sales of farm property supplied to us by the province. It's just an internal analysis how we came up with the 4,000.
Okay.
It could, I possibly could have given you a copy of the sales I just supplied. You could have done your analysis from those.
Okay, so.
So it is available if I'm sure the municipal office would be able to supply you with sales. That I can't confirm with.
Okay, that means I get it for the whole darn province. It certainly wouldn't be sorted, so you'd have to go through and sort all this.
Okay, anyway, we've heard the evidence, and we have to go on with other matters, so
Well,
thank you very much for your
fair enough.
attention. Mr. Strachan, do you have any other items, or is it back to this right now? Okay, well, welcome, thanks, nice to see you again.
Okay, likewise.
Sorry, I guess I kept the chairs for too long.
Well, no, it's just that your application is finished, so we should get on with the next matter.
Okay, I'll
People
get
are
right
waiting.
here. Quick. Whose is this? This isn't mine.
No,
I'll leave that here. That's mine.
That's for last minute calculations.
Okay, our next property, when we have a seat here, is 3949 Waverly Street. Yeah.
Would you like to swear in or affirm? Could you please state your name?
Just,
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes,
And do you have any evidence for it?
sure. This way.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay, Ms. Red, when you're ready, you can proceed.
Thank you. The subject property is roll number 03011430100. The address is 3949 Waverly Street. This is a piece of land in the LeBarriere neighborhood. It is zoned agricultural. It's a piece of farm property with some farm buildings on the site. I have provided an aerial photo with my evidence of the piece of land. It is 215.58 acres. And the 2020 assessment is $1,176,000, which works out to $54,055 per acre. I have 5 comparable properties here. Comparable number 1 is located in the Trapeze neighborhood, and comparable number 2 is located in the LeBarriere neighborhood. So those 2 comparables are fairly close to the subject property, as you can see from the map. And then comparables 3 to 5 are located in the St. Vital Perimeter South neighborhood, which is also fairly close. And the reason I chose these 5 comparables is they're all within the rural and agricultural areas designated by our Winnipeg development plan. I will note that comparable number 2 was an improved farm property, so there is a residential building, there's a house on the site, so there would need to be an adjustment for that from the sale price. Comparables 1 and 2 are agricultural zoning, comparables 3 to 5 are rural residential 5 zoning. All comparable properties have no sewer and no water. Comparable 2 is on an external corner, and comparable 3 has a light traffic influence. The sales for these properties occurred between 2014 and 2018, and the range of sale prices range from $7,002 per acre to $30,026 per acre. So based on these comparable properties, I feel that the 2020 assessment of $5,455 per acre for the subject property is supported by market evidence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions of the assessor, you can ask them now?
Sure, just a couple. In the comparable 3, 4, and 5, the zoning is RR5.
Yeah.
I guess, what is it? I don't exactly know what that means, or how that compares to an agricultural zoning.
Yeah, it's really tough to say, and like I went over, I mean, I would say comparables 1 and 2 are definitely more similar to the subject property than comparables 3 to 5. The reason I included those was just due to limited sales with the same conditions in the area. So yeah, they are zoned differently. The reason I felt they could be somewhat comparable to the subject is because they are designated as rural and agricultural in our Winnipeg development plan, which means that any potential development may be approximately the development is far off for all of these properties. But yeah, I feel that comparables 1 and 2 are definitely more similar to the subject property.
Sure, well, that's good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stevenson, do you have any questions of the assessor?
Just one, are these, they're all coded, the use is agriculture, but are they currently being used for agriculture? Like, are they under production?
Yes, all 5 comparables that I'm aware of, last in our records, all 5 comparables were being farmed.
Okay, But the value is just, it's the fair market value, it's not the agricultural use value, because it doesn't look like they have ag use on them, right? Or it's not
For-
showing here.
Yeah, it doesn't show the class of the comparables. Some of them do have, the owner has applied for the farm use value. These are, so that would be reflected in the assessment. These are the sale prices.
Okay, so we're just looking at the market value,
The sales of the
Right.
comparables, yeah.
and this is all land.
Other than comparable number 2, which does have a house on the site, so there would need to be some adjustment, which is difficult to be exact. It's difficult to say how much value the purchaser put on the house versus the rest of the land. It is 387 acres, so a lot of that value would be in the land. There would need to be some adjustment for the house, so it likely be a bit less than 7,000 an acre, depending on how much value is in the residential portion.
But the subject is all land.
With some farm buildings, there's no house.
On the assessment roll, does it break it down between land and buildings?
No, we don't.
It's
We
just
have
all
a
what value.
full assessed value.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Rebel, do you have any questions, Assessor?
I'm just wondering about comparable 3, 4, and 5, which is zoned as rural residential. I'm wondering what kind of buildings might be on those properties.
As far as I'm aware, they are actually just vacant land right now that is being farmed.
I guess I am wondering what the difference is between rural residential and agricultural in that vein as well.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure on the specifics. I'm thinking residential development is probably easier in RR5 zoning.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. So basically, I'm looking and I see there's 2 properties that you have in the vicinity, and 2 comparables that I think might be more influential, and the other 3 maybe less so because they're farther away.
Yeah.
And I see a huge discrepancy between the evaluation of the 2 comparables. One is considerably less than such a property and has a house on it yet, which would have some value. And the other is much higher, at 387 per acre. Oh, it's 3.87 acres. Hang on.
The value is, the sale was $7,002 per acre for comparable number 2, and 387 acres.
I see, okay. Yeah, okay, I get it, yeah. So those are your best comparables, and there still is a reasonable discrepancy, but, and you've got this property valued at 5,455.
5,455 per acre.
Yeah, and that's just the model that did that, or?
Yes.
Okay, it's difficult, I guess, if not lots of comparables.
It is difficult with these farm properties, especially one as large as a subject property at just over 215 acres. It is difficult.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear from the applicant, because there is some difficulty here.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, proceed, please.
Sure.
If you're-
I may jump around a little bit, I'll maybe just speak further to what the discussion was just a minute ago.
You can speak in however you wish to, go ahead.
Okay. I was asking for clarification on what rural residential meant, because I actually inquired about that one time. And because we were going to subdivide a portion off for my parents to live there. But anyway, it's, I was basically told there's no way that's gonna happen, like until, there's no way you can divide off like a 5-acre site or anything like that. If I recall correctly, this is that, this is what, on the comparable 3, 4, and 5, on that zoning, you could do that, I think, but I'm not gonna swear to that. I guess if I'm looking at this, the comparables 1 and 2, I'm comfortable comparing my property to, but 3, 4, and 5, I'm not really comfortable with that because they are further away and there's a lot more development around it, and it's more of an active developed area, and also the different zoning. If we look at comparable 1 and 2, comparable one is Sage Hill or Sage Creek Stables, or no, Sage Hill Stables. And there's a big riding arena on it and 2 mobile homes. So if I back out what I think those buildings would be valued at, this riding arena is size of anyway, it's a huge riding arena. If I back out the approximate value of that and the 2 mobile homes, I took a value of $750,000. So if I back that out of the 1.269 million, comes up with a per acre of land of $3,530 an acre is what I think the land sold for there. And if I go on to comparable 2, and I back out what I think that house and a bunch of grain storage and handling and farm equipment storage buildings are, I think they'd also be worth around $750,000. So if I back that out, then I come up with a value of the land there of $560 an acre for that land. So I guess those are the numbers I'm kind of working with. There's 2 buildings on my property, but they were put up. One was put up there in the '60s, and the other, I'm not sure when. But for modern day farming equipment, they're obsolete. You can store maybe smaller equipment or equipment from the '60s or '70s in them, but modern day farm equipment. The value of my farm properties is negligible, or my farm buildings is negligible. So I've pretty much just got the land, I guess, is what I've been looking at. I'll just got my package of stuff here. I'll jump over to. So probably the easiest if I just give a real quick summary of it, and if you had any questions, just let me know. But the first 3 pages is just kind of background information. On page number 4, there's top part is just kind of the dollar amounts, and then it's kind of summarized in the line graph in the middle of the page. So the line graph just shows what the assessed value was going along, starting when I bought the property in 2002. And goes along fine, and then gets up to this year, and it jumps up approximately 155%. And if I include that bump up here, it's going to give a 487% increase since I bought the property. And I don't think you could find many properties that have gone up that much, either in the last 18 years or in the last 2 years. Especially seeing as I haven't put any new buildings on or improved the property. So that was just kind of that's all I had to say on that page. The next page is so this property, my brother and I farm half of it, and then we rent the other half out to a neighbor farm. So for the rent, I'm getting the same amount, and then went up about 7 or 8 years ago, and then it's been flat ever since. Just got some miscellaneous notes here that I'll quickly run through. No new or additional buildings or improvements since '02. No new or additional services since '02. We've had 6 break-ins since 2016, and we don't even report them anymore because nothing happens. Yeah, just miscellaneous vandalism is continuing. Waverly Street is, they are working on it now, so I don't know what's going to come of that. But it's pretty rough there for a while. Number 6 is a pretty big one, with this property being 1.5 kilometers from the Brady landfill. It's on a, if not every week, every other week, well, every week in the spring, maybe every 3 weeks for the rest of the year, we get somebody that went to the landfill and it was closed, or they didn't want to pay the tipping fee, so they dumped their garbage in our yard. And nobody will even come out and help us or do anything with it. So that does not improve the value of the property. Last one, near impossibility of increasing rental rates due to drainage, but more so because of, there's too much traffic on the roads nearby for anybody to be coming in with any big equipment. That was on that one. So, on the next page, page 6, I kind of put together what, just my little deal here. I took what I think the assessment should be, and I based it on the FCC Farmland Values Report, which is basically an industry standard. I think it has become of every year they just list out based on sales what farmland has done, increase or decrease. So I took the 2017 value, which was on page 9, which for this area, Central Plains, was a 0% increase from the year before, and then the 2018 report on page 8 was a 4% increase. So I took those amounts and applied them to the agreed upon assessed value earlier, which was $462,000, and I came up with a new one of $480,000 for the property. So that's where I got my numbers from for this one. For the comparable sales, both of those properties, it should be noted, they were both purchased by developers. And the one developer for comparable 1 bought that and told me that he was expecting a windfall from the back half of that property for when the St. Norbert bypass goes through. So that's what, that had a large impact on the price he paid for that property. For comparable 2, which was right next door to me, the developer that bought that property told me that he wanted access to Waverly Street and Brady Road. Like to be able to, if it were to be developed, he'd have twice the access points. Which I also think led to him paying as much as he did for that property. So I don't have either of those. I won't be getting a windfall, and I only have access to Waverly Street. So that's kind of where I was coming from on there. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Somebody, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Not at this time, no, thank you.
You? Stevenson, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, I don't have anything.
Ms. Randall, do you have any questions?
Yes, I'm just wondering, you indicated that the 2 buildings on your property are obsolete, they're old in terms of farm equipment in this day and
Sure.
age. You said you've had 6 break-ins.
Yeah.
What have they stolen? Why are they breaking in?
Well, my brother and I are farming out there with older equipment, and they basically, every time they break in, they just steal our tools.
Okay.
That's what they do. And then my brother had a camper parked out there in one of the buildings, and they just ransacked that camper. So now we leave them open, and we just keep all of our tools in our vehicle. So break-ins haven't been a problem this past summer or this past harvest season, I guess, because we don't leave anything of any value out there anymore. So,
You say you farm the property?
my brother and I farm half of that property, and then our neighbor rents the other half.
Okay. Can you tell me, I'm looking at this chart on page 4, and you say, the way that you have figured things out, you think that the assessment should be $480,480. And I'm looking at the top line that says assessed value. I'm not sure what that means, because the next line says that was your property assessment notices, correct?
Yeah, I was looking at it, I didn't have it labeled quite properly, and some of the numbers in this, in the graph do not get pulled into the line graph, so I didn't bother changing it around, but basically the very top line is what it was assessed at after we had, after any appeal. I guess it was the agreed upon assessment that the taxes were based on over the years. So it started off when I bought it in 2002 at 200,500, and then just recently it was in 2017, 2018, it was at 462, and then 2019, 2020, I did not update that for the I guess we haven't agreed upon that amount yet.
So subsequent to appeal, this is the amount that was agreed upon? Is that what you're?
Up until the year 2019,
Yeah.
2020.
Okay. The other thing I was wondering is you said you bought this property in 2002,
Sure.
and the subject sale history says the sale year was 2004?
Yeah, I saw that in the, I'm sure I bought this in 2002. Maybe it was 2004, but I'm pretty sure I bought this in 2002.
We use information from land titles, and we use possession date, so if there was a delay between the sale and possession date, that could be.
Okay, that would make sense, because I'll give you a little bit of history on this just for your information. I bought this property from the city of Winnipeg, and I think I had, maybe I'm thinking that we had agreed upon an amount in 2002, but by the time it got through all committees and such, for it to be, or we had a letter of understanding in 2002, I guess it would be. So maybe it was finalized in 2004. So that would make sense.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, thank you.
You said you rent out half of it, how many acres do you rent out?
Well, he just goes by his, we just kind of have a marker in the field, and so he pays me for, it's 210, and then we took off 5 for the yard site, so he paid me 105 acres.
Okay, and you pay $73,050, was it, a year? According to your table.
Yeah, it's, because of since I own it, I rent some to my brother and some to, so I must have combined them in here to bring them in, so. I don't know what that works out to. I think it averages out about $50 an acre, I think, is what it works out to. I think that's.
Okay, I don't think I have any other questions. Thank you. So, yeah, we're finished, you'll hear from us.
Okay, that's all there is to it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You can drive home in the daylight.
You also farm a Portia Prairie?
What's that?
You also farm a Portia Prairie?
Yes, my parents live in Boardroom Prairie, and they're getting on in years, so my dad needed some help farming there, so I farm there, and then with my brother here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to swear in? Could you please state your name? And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Do you have any evidence?
Yes, it is.
Just steal that copy from you after you're done.
Absolutely. Your thing.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, when you're ready.
Thank you.
Did you wanna do the two smaller lots together?
I was just thinking, I think the order they're in is, yeah, it might
Yeah,
make more
'cause
sense to do
yeah,
those two
We
together.
can kinda do them both at the same
So
time.
that'll be item 6 and 7?
So, file, I believe it's 6 and 8.
Okay.
Or sorry, numbers 6 and 8
6
are
and 8.
actually close together, and the other two are close together, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
So let's put 6 and 8 together then.
okay. So I'll start with number 6 on the docket. So this property is roll number 0306-491-0000. There is no street address associated with the property. This is a vacant piece of land in Bridgewater Lakes with agricultural zoning. It is 1.64 acres, no sewer and no water. The 2020 assessment is $100,000, which is $60,976 per acre. I have 9 comparable properties here that are all also vacant agriculture zone land in Bridgewater Lakes. They're all in the same row. The 2 lot sizes are 0.82 acres and 1.64 acres. All properties have no sewer and no water. The sales I have today occurred between 2013 and 2016, and the sale price per acre ranged from $52,570 to $84,243. So based on these sales, I feel that the 2020 assessment of $100,000 or $60,976 per acre is supported by market evidence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of the assessor?
Yes. Okay, some of those sales are pre, eh?
Sorry?
Some of these sales are predated?
So we look at sales up to April 1st of 2018.
Yeah.
So we can look.
But some are
years before
13,
that.
some are 14. Actually,
Yeah.
most of them are 14.
Yeah, and
So that's quite a bit pre.
yeah, and if more recent sales aren't occurring, we will look back. The most recent sales I could find were 2016 in that area, so that's the reason for the sales I selected.
Any other questions?
That's it for now.
Stevenson, any questions to the assessor?
I have no questions at this time, thank you.
Mr. Upland, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank
And
you.
I don't either. So you provide your evidence now.
Okay, I've got a recent sale here. It's 2016. We have 2 lots for sale, lot 29 and 80. And it says 0.8 acres plus or minus, so it'll be the same size lots. It was for 54.9. They both sold for 44,000 even. When the days in the market was 101.
Okay,
Yeah, actually, you do have that one listed here as one of your comparables. So basically, for 0.82 acres, it comes out to $44,000.
that's your evidence.
That's my evidence.
Questions?
No questions, thank you.
Stevenson, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thanks.
I have
Sure.
no questions, thank you.
So looking at this, this sale that you have,
Yep.
and how do these properties that you're giving, or listing here, how close are they to your property?
They're only, they would be over maybe about 8 over.
Okay,
Because there's actually, the guy who owned all these properties, this was established in 1887, these lots, way back. And somebody owned from about half an hour to the city, he owned 44 lots. And I happen to be one of the people to buy one of those lots. And they're actually all identical in size. They border White Ridge and Bridgewater. And they're virtually all the same. So there is no, I went to the city to see, they're not in the precinct Q plan right now. They don't know what's gonna happen there right now. They have no
okay, so there's no surfaces, so suddenly all, and it's multiple owners, so everybody's got to get together?
multiple owners. The whole thing is multiple
Yeah.
owners, yeah. And so there's no plan for development there yet at all. Like they have nothing in mind there yet.
How long have you owned the properties?
Since '92.
You've owned them for a while.
Yeah.
sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay,
Yeah, and they had a sale, two of them, for 44,000. So I think the fair market value is 44,000 per lot.
and I'm looking at the comparables, are there any comparables there that are in the same block or as yours?
Yeah, there's a few there.
Yeah,
but-
please, show me which ones they are.
Yeah, but we gotta go, not for the pre, we gotta go, for the existing. And we've got one existing here at, 44, and we got one existing here at 42, 857, and one for 46,000. So 44,000 would actually give you an average.
I'm saying which of the city's comparables are,
Oh, a
Are
city
in-
comparable
yeah.
is a comparable number 5,
right?
comparable 4, and comparable 3. And they're all in the 16.
Okay,
Yeah, the other ones are pre.
okay.
And one of the ones that they have is comparable is one of the ones that I have as well. So if you took an average, you'd have about $44,000.
Well, I don't know, the properties that you listed are sold for 56, 53, and 54.
Oh, they had data sale, sworn value. Well, it's got sworn value here. If you go right across, it says
Oh,
comparable.
Yeah, look at the sale price per acre, I'm sorry, you're right,
Yeah,
absolutely, okay.
yeah. If you
No.
take the average,
Yeah,
just
you're
rough
right.
it,
Yeah.
about 44,000 would be
Okay,
average on their comparables and my comparables.
you're right,
Yeah.
thank you.
If I could just comment, and those comparables are 0.82 acres, and the subject is 1.64 acres. So it's double the size of those comparables. So we look at the price per acre.
Okay. It's true. So,
Yeah, what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
consensus, you just double it.
yeah.
If it's 2 times 0.82,
Yeah.
there you go.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay, so you think your land is worth more like 88,000 rather than the city has it,
Yes,
that's it right now?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's deal with item 8 then. Is that the same deal as?
Yeah, it's-
So we dealt with both of them then?
Yeah, both at the same time, yeah. So the comparables are all the same for
Oh,
both
both are the
sides.
same, it's
Yeah.
just another parcel you have to own,
That's correct, yeah.
and it's the same,
Same, identical,
it's the same subdivision.
yep. Actually, they're all very close to each other again. I think the assessor agreed to that.
Yeah, I believe I used the same
Yeah,
comparables for both.
yeah, there's not much difference, no.
Yeah.
So here you have 2.4 acres. Okay, we can deal with that.
Okay.
Should we still read it for the record, or
Sorry?
should we still read in item 8 for the record, or no?
Oh, yeah, absolutely we should.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Subject property is roll number 03064894500. This is a vacant piece of agricultural zone land in Bridgewater Lakes. The land area is 2.4 acres, and it has no sewer and no water. The 2020 assessment is $136,000, which it works out to $56,744 per acre. I have 8 comparable properties that are located in the same area. They all have agricultural zoning. The 2 lot sizes of the comparables are 0.82 and 1.6 per acres. None of the comparables have sewer or water, and the price per acre range from $52,570 to $84,243 per acre. So the 2020 assessment of the subject property at $56,744 per acre is within the range of the comparable properties.
Thank you.
same thing for,
Right, same difference.
yeah, same thing and at
Same questions.
44,000.
Same
Yeah,
question,
same
okay,
questions, yeah.
okay.
So it would just be prorated,
Right,
yeah.
whatever we decide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and then what we do is item 7 and 9. Let's deal with them one by one, that's gonna be confusing.
Sure.
The second one can be very quick, if it's the same property.
Yeah.
Okay?
And we'll start with item 7. Thank you. Roll number 0802095260. This is a vacant piece of land in the Royalwood neighborhood. It is zoned rural residential 5. The land area is 13.65 acres. The land influences are it's adjacent to the same river, rail line, and it has no sewer and no water. The 2020 assessment currently is $1,254,000, which is $91,865 per acre. I have 5 comparable properties. Comparables 1 and 2 are located in the Fremont neighborhood. Comparable 3 is in St. Norbert. Comparable 4 in Grassy, and comparable 5 in Peguis. All of these comparable properties are vacant land with rural residential 5 zoning. The land area of the comparables ranges from 6.76 to 22.49 acres. All comparable properties have no sewer and no water. Comparable 1 has a rail line influence and is located on an external corner. Comparable 2 has a rail line influence, and comparable 4 has a heavy traffic influence. Based on these comparable properties, I feel that the 2020 assessment is too high, so I am recommending that it be reduced to $956,000, which is $70,000 per acre.
Do you accept that recommendation?
Oh, hang on, just, getting here. We're doing with the, it's assessed at $1,254,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I would take a consideration of $886,000, seeing this is not zone R5 and it is zone farmland, not agricultural. And it does not have a serviced road.
You know what, unless the
Okay.
unless the assessors prepared to make that as a recommendation, you'll have to make your argument for that.
Okay, I'll do that after, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, any other questions?
Okay, your other comparables, they are not in the Royalwood, well, do you have it in the Royalwood area? You've got 2 comparables in the Royalwood area?
Yes, so 2 of the properties are right across the rail line, so that's the divider between the neighborhoods. So those 2 comparables are now in what is called the Fremont neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it is difficult to find
Okay, yeah.
comparable properties, or
Yeah.
sales of comparable properties, which
Yeah.
is why I used comparables from different neighborhoods. But comparables 1 and 2, I would say are most similar to the subject, being right across the river.
Okay, yeah, and those properties are serviced. Those are,
No, it says no sewer, no water.
right across. Oh, that's the ones that Qualico bought, okay. Okay, that one is, actually, it is on the service road, which is Creek Bend Road.
As far as I know,
Because-
the actual properties themselves don't have sewer or water services, but I can look into that.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at it right now. You've got Creek Bend Road right there going across, there's a tracks that separate the 2 problems.
Yes.
I'm further north, there to the east-south side, that's actually service property, and that is actually zoned RR5. So you can actually build on those properties.
Yes, zoning is RR5.
Yeah.
I will have to double check on your property.
No, maybe you can
RR
now, maybe in 2018 you couldn't.
Yeah, you could,
Huh?
yeah, because I'm going through a thing with the city, because I want to build on this property I have, so,
Okay,
that's
just
why,
clarifying.
yeah, yeah. That's an RR5, if you have, 5 acres or more, you can actually build on it if it's, by a serviced road. Because you're theoretically, you're on Creek Bend in the corner of Sioux Road, but just across the tracks.
I have a letter here from 2016 that says the subject property is zoned RR5. Has it
Yeah.
changed? Your
Uh,
property?
Mine is, actually, it's farmland, zone farm. It's right on the tax certificate.
Is that the zoning or our classification of the property?
The classification is farmland.
But I believe the zoning is RR5.
It's actually farmland, because the property that we just did it, those 2 small lots, they changed that in 2016 to not farm anymore. They went opposite on that.
But zoning is different than classification
Yes.
for assessment
Yeah,
purposes.
but this is farmland. The other ones, you can get agricultural, ag, RR5, and I'm farmland with no RR5.
Is the property currently being farmed?
It is farmed, yeah.
Your property is?
Yeah, we bale hay on it, yeah. And my property is on the side road beside the tracks. That's the city of Winnipeg owns that, that's actually a dirt road. Yeah, so,
So you asked a question still, right?
oh, yeah, we get into this, yeah. So, the other 2 properties you have that's closest for comparison, I know it's hard to get comparisons here, but that would be, that's an Ag 5, you can build on it. It's got service, it's got hydro, it's got gas actually, and it's on a gravel road. Where my property is zoned farmland, it's not an RR5, and I'm not on the service road, I don't have the gas, and I don't have.
Okay, you're asking questions now, but you're giving
Oh.
evidence, it's okay.
Okay, that's the only thing, yeah.
Yeah, do you have any other questions though?
No, that's it for now.
And, okay, any evidence you gave us, you know, we already heard it then.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Any questions of the assessor? Stevenson?
Just a couple. In terms of the comps you've used, you found 5. They're in quite different areas of the city. You indicated that's because it's difficult to find them. Looking at it, comp 1 and 2 are the closest, being sort of across the street, so to speak. And I note that the incremental increases in the sale price per acre in the different areas, I mean, there seems to be a bit of a pattern. So do you consider comp 1 and comp 2 the best, or?
Yes, I believe they would be the most similar to the subject just because of their location. The reason I chose the other comparables is, again, I have on our records that the subject property is zoned RR5, so I was looking at properties that are zoned RR5 and looking for similar size property. So as you can see, the subject is 13.65, so 4 to 5 of the comps are smaller and 1 is larger. So I tried to stick to RR5 zone properties. Another thing I looked at was the R Winnipeg development plan. And comps 1 and 2 are within the same area as the subject. The other comparables are in older neighborhoods, so they, comparables 3 to 5 are less similar to the subject than comparables 1 and 2.
Is location the primary driver of the value, or?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Ms. Rip, do you have any questions?
I see that under the land influences, you have indicated Seine River adjacent. Would you see this as a positive influence in terms of the value of the land?
In terms of agricultural properties, it's really difficult to say to potential purchasers. It's likely having a slightly positive effect on our value in our modeling system. And yeah, with the limited number of comparables of similar properties, to then also find a river adjacent comparable is almost impossible, extremely difficult unless a sale like that occurs. So it is really difficult to save the influence of a river on a farm property.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
And I don't have any questions, thank you.
Thank you.
You can provide your evidence.
Yeah, sales 4 and 5 actually are on a service paved road.
Okay, you give me your evidence now, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm just saying, my property is on a dirt road, doesn't have the services, and I'm not on comparables like 3, 4, and 5.
okay.
Uh,
I think we've already established a comparable
Yeah.
1 and
Okay,
2 are
yeah.
the best comparables.
Yeah, 1 and 2 definitely. The other ones are in a new growing area with a lot of apartment blocks and condos and side-by-sides. Actually, 3, 4, and 5 are all like that. Best comparable is 1 and 2. But, like I said, it's a service road, it has services, you can build on it, I can't build on it. And they're an R5, I am I got farmland. That's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions of the applicant, Ms. Wright?
No, I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Davidson, do
I
you have
have
any
no
questions?
questions either, thank
Ms.
you.
Whipple?
No questions, thank you.
So Ms. Whipple asked a question of the assessor that I want to ask you.
Sure.
So how much of the same river do you have on that property?
There is probably about 700 feet.
Okay,
But through, if you're gonna subdivide it one day when it goes
Right,
through,
yeah.
you have to give up 9 acres for that. Through the precinct K,
okay.
if you wanna develop it.
Of course, the river lots would sell for a lot more than non-adjacent lots.
Yeah, some of the other comparables, you already have your paved roads, where this, you'd have to start from scratch, you don't have it.
Yeah.
And also, a big influence on this is the board bridge. Kitty Corner, Genstar did Bonavista, Vista. So they contributed toward the bridge in a fund. The bridge is gonna be $4 million, and actually, if you're gonna develop it, you would have to contribute a portion, be prorated on your land toward that bridge. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. And
Thank you.
now we'll deal with item number 9, which is the last item we have.
Yes.
Okay. When you're ready to start, you can proceed.
Thank you.
The subject property is roll number 0800-5714-000. There is no street address for this parcel. This is a vacant piece of property in the Royalwood neighborhood with, we have rural residential 5 zoning. This property is Seine River adjacent and it has no sewer, no water. The 2020 assessment is $1 million, which works out to $43,085 per acre. I have 5 comparables here. Comparables 1 and 2 are in the Footy Pont neighborhood, comparable 3 is in St. Norbert, comparable 4 in Grassy, and comparable 5 in Peguis. These are all vacant parcels with rural residential 5 zoning. All comparables have no sewer and no water. The sale price per acre on these properties range from $71,450 to $4 per acre to $124,995 per acre. So based on these comparables, I feel that the 2020 assessment of the subject property is supported by market evidence.
Thank you. Any questions to the assessor?
Yes. The comparables that you have, on 3, 4, and 5, they're on paved roads.
Okay, you're asking a question or you make a statement?
Okay, no. Okay. 3, 4, and 5, it's nowhere close to the vicinity at all.
Okay, that's a question, right?
Oh, well,
Okay,
yeah.
you can answer that?
Yes, I chose, there are limited sales, so I believe comparables 1 and 2 are the most similar. And I was looking for sales of properties that were around the same size with the same zoning when I was looking for my comparables. So 3 to 5 are not as similar to the subject as comparables 1 and 2.
Okay. That's all.
Okay. Ms. Davis, do you have
I
any
have no
questions?
questions, thank you. I have no questions.
Okay, so my question is that we just had the other property we just dealt with, which you recommended at $70,000 an acre, which was less than it was assessed at originally. And this property is assessed, is very, very close to it, has the same influence, it's only assessed at $43,085 an acre. I'm wondering why there's such a discrepancy between this property and such we just dealt with.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, based on these comparables, I feel that this property may be under-assessed. But, yeah, I haven't requested to increase the assessment, so I feel that 43,000 per acre is definitely supported.
Okay, that was an observation, I guess there was a
Yeah,
question.
no, I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
because I thought the other property we did first, I knew I had a recommendation, I had one up for 886,000, and this one at 713,000, which would basically be about the same assessment, because the one property is actually beside the other, and one has no more important influence than the other. They're both direct, but they're directly a zoned farm, not RR5.
Well, I can only say if the other one is valued at what the assessors recommended, you think you have a deal on this one.
Oh, just say it again, the other
I'm
one?
saying if the other property has the value that's commensurate with what the assessor recommended,
Mhm.
and we haven't determined that yet, I'm just saying.
No, I-
Then you got a deal on this one.
Yeah, I'm dealing on this one here, yeah.
No, I'm saying you've got a more favorable assessment on this property than the adjacent property.
Yeah, well, this one here is actually, would have actually the least amount of influence, because it is actually to the south. So actually, if you, theoretically, if you sold the first piece of property, you would have actually no access to this piece of property at all.
Well, since you control both parcels, I guess you wouldn't do that then.
Well,
With maintaining
Yeah,
access.
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This one is actually theoretically it is worth less than the other one, because if you
Okay.
sold the first one, because there's two separate titles,
It's a good explanation of why
Yeah.
this might be assessed less than.
yeah, and you would actually have to cross somebody else's property to get permission to actually get onto it. And therefore, I think the valuation it's high at $1 million.
Okay, well, I guess you can provide your evidence now then. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay. Property, or 1 and 2 is on a service road. It's got services, you can build on it. It's an RR5. The subject property is farmland, and you can't build on it. And it is just used to bale hay right now, and that's it. So therefore, I think comparable 1 and 2, it's the closest, but it's got a different value in it. That is an RR5, and you can build on it, and it is service, so you can do multiple things there. Where the subject property is basically all you can do is farm it, and that's it. And it's own farmland.
Okay, so what value do you think, well, last questions, go ahead, do you have any questions?
So I guess this is related to the previous property as well. These two properties are side by side.
Yes.
What is your long-term intention with these properties?
Well, I mean, believe it or not, I bought this property to build 2 houses on. Actually, one for the parents and one for us. Okay? And I'm fighting now with the city because that whole area, it is in a precinct K plan. And it is is actually a concept. Because nothing's written in stone, it's a concept. So this whole thing comes, if you wanna do something with it, you'd have to put the road in from south side. It has to be a 32-foot wide with a cul-de-sac at the end. You'd have to give up 9 acres on the river to save the same. They have bicycle paths and everything all sketched in there. South side would continue through the property. And now with that $15,000 per lot, the city wants now, which they didn't want before, that's all added cost now. And the bridge, it's a $4 million bridge. That would have to be put in before any of this goes through.
And have you ever considered selling or listing the property, or?
Well, I would, but there's so much there to do before anything's gonna, because everybody knows about the bridge in that area. Qualico knows about the bridge, Genstar knows about the bridge, A&S knows about the bridge. I mean, all the developers know about it, and so it is pretty pricey. So the best thing actually to happen here is when Ward goes through eventually one day, is I get expropriated, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. There was
Any other
that.
questions?
I know it's, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Was there, do you have any questions?
I
of
have
the
no
applicant?
questions.
I have no questions, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I have no questions either. Thank
Okay.
you. Oh, I have a question, so we should, what assessment would you like to see on this property?
713,000.
I'm not gonna ask you how you arrived at that. But, okay. Okay, thank you.
That's it, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, panel.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you.
It was a very interesting day today.
A long one for you.
Yeah.
It was different, I've never seen one like that before.